Hi, cohort 15 and 16. Welcome to Megatrends, past, present, and future. The purpose of our conversation is really to look at megatrends and how they affect and impact our world and society and how we correlate them to education. The way we do school is often contingent upon upcoming trends and challenges that our society faces. Our Megatrends, past, present, and future panel includes a variety of familiar faces, some educators who have connected many connecting themes associated to the future of not only school, but also our world. Circumstances like COVID-19 and the need for culturally responsive pedagogy make looking at the trends of the past and the present essential. These set a precedent and serve as a catalyst that supports us in making data-informed decisions which propel us forward to a brighter future. Our goal is to have a purposeful conversation that educates, informs, and calls to action fellow educators as they work to prepare the unknown. Next, we're going to have introductions.
I'm Stephanie Amaya. I am currently a principal in Dallas ISD, and the reason that I chose Megatrends is due to the pandemic, we're seeing increasing educational inequities. So Megatrends, past, present, and future can really help us identify, inform, and predict trends in order to make sure that we're working to end systematic inequalities.
I'm Angela Butler. I'm a teacher and coach at Greenville High School. And as a classroom teacher, I have the most direct impact on students. And so it's important for me to be fully aware of megatrends and understand them in order to prepare my students for the future.
I'm Alexia White, and I serve DeSoto ISD as the elementary strategist for our magnet programs. And I work to support our teachers and leaders within our district, within our magnet programs. And so we want to give rich and impactful experiences through exposure. However, megatrends help us to kind of be cutting edge. And we also want to support them as they prepare for the future with limitless possibilities that is associated to their well-being and where they'll go.
Hi, my name is Lisa Pettivilla, and I'm an elementary principal in Grapevine Colleyville ISD. And I feel like if we're to prepare our students for their future, then we must constantly be searching for where their future is headed. And being aware of megatrends, and specifically in technology and possible outcomes on education, is relevant to our core work.
Hi, I'm Mandy Murphy, and I'm a principal in Argyle ISD. I believe that social emotional well-being affects students' ability to learn. Globally, research demonstrates the negative impact of overstimulation from social media and other technological use. The impact of digital responsibility is shifting not only to parents or the students, but also in our schools of all our nations.
My name is Mickey Jackson. I'm the superintendent of Frost ISD. One of my responsibilities is to allocate the resources and professional development to help move the organization towards our vision and mission. Our vision and mission is always revolves around student outcomes, and megatrends definitely inform what those student outcomes should be to have them future ready.
Hi, my name is Vivian Yang, and I'm the Chinese language program coordinator. I support the curriculum and instruction of the Chinese language program at Legacy Preparatory Charter Academy. Megatrend in globalization makes me feel very compelled to bring international mindedness into our school education. Thank you.
All right, guys, so we're going to be having a conversation about megatrends and how, because it really encompasses a variety of topics. So for today's conversation, we've categorized them into 3 categories. 1, diversity. 2, changes in landscape, which means really urbanization and globalization. And 3, the effects of technology. So Alexia, can you start off by telling us, the role of diversity and how it relates to megatrends?
Yes, so diversity is where our world is headed, but not only our world, but also our society and here our country in the United States. There's been a tremendous increase in the population, and immigration is also impacting our world at a rapid pace. And so as our country is continuing to grow exponentially, we see these dynamic influences. And in just 35 short years, the population of the United States will actually not even have a racial or ethnic majority. And so this is partly due or hugely due, or greatly due rather, to both immigration as well as interracial marriage, which actually was not even legal until 1967. So that wasn't even that long ago. And yet we see such a huge amount of people who are racially ambiguous, which means you can't even tell what race or ethnicity they belong to. So in regards to those factors, they contribute to the trend. And our ideas, excuse me, y'all, ideas that we have in the concept of race in our country is founded upon segmentation and division. And so instead, we should really see each other as one, which is a human race. We should be able to use diversity as a dynamic tool that it is. Because yes, the United States is not homogeneous. We are heterogeneous. However, we can truly use and live up to our country's creed to see everyone as just and provide liberty and justice for all. And so diversity definitely is a great megatrend that is on the rise. However, we can use it to fulfill, again, our country's creed. So Angela, I know that diversity, especially in the workplace, we really don't see it in areas of leadership in regards to women. And so can you tell us a little bit about the role that women play and how that's an important aspect within diversity?
Yes, I would love to. So the idea behind diversity is just that representation is everything. And in looking at women in leadership, there has been a step in the right direction. However, that gender gap is still there, and equality in the workplace has not yet been reached. So women, and particularly women of color, are underrepresented at every level. A more diverse workforce will naturally lead to a more inclusive culture in the workforce. Employees universally value opportunity and fairness. And across all the demographic groups, when employees feel that they have equal opportunity for advancement and think that the system is fair, they're happier. They're happier with their career. They want to stay where they are, stay at their company longer, and they're more likely to recommend it as a great place to work. They're proud of where they come from. And so bringing those ideas of, demographic groups and women, there's still work to be done. And we have a mega trend here that is creating a more inclusive culture, but we do still have some work to do in both of those areas.
So it kind of makes you think of, instead of like looking at someone for what they are, right? Look at them as who they are, like, because we all are people, we have so much value to bring and add. But if we solely look at people for their race and what they are, or them or a man, then to some degree we can't see them for the value that they add.
Yes, yes. And research shows, specifically in looking at leadership, that people associate leadership with masculinity. And we may have men that are not super ambitious to be a leader in their organization. They are not compelled by the fast-paced path to leadership, and that's okay. We may have women that are, and that's okay too. They don't have to take the background seat just because they're a woman. Those, social roles that are sexist in nature are going out the window, is what the research is telling us. And specifically looking at education, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, we're seeing some changes in regards to the the norms that have been there that kind of everyone is used to, but really are not good, are not appropriate.
Mickey is such an inspiration because she is a superintendent. And so it's so great to see that role being played out just in our own community of cohorts.
Absolutely. So demographic changes in society include roles within gender, changes in demographics and race, which can cause urbanization and globalization, another megatrends topic. So Vivian, can you tell us some more about that?
Thank you. When people and business moving from one city to another city, from rural to urban areas, we call it urbanization. But when people move or business moving from one country to another country on a larger scale, we call it globalization. And globalization is actually one of the major mega change that is happening so fundamentally in our daily life without many of us realizing it. For example, I am in this global, yeah, I am in this discussion with your guys in it. And with the pandemic that happened in this past year, we can see how different parts of the world are so closely connected and interdependent with each other.
Yeah, so for the first time in history, there's been so many people that are moving in cities from rural areas, right? So we have our population growth in cities is tremendous. And studies used to show that the interconnectivity that the internet would bring would mean that we can really work from wherever. We work remotely, we work in rural areas. However, society has shown that there's a need for collaboration primarily through work. And so we've all experienced that as we're in this lockdown, you can't go anywhere, can't do anything, and we still need to like be on Zoom all the time, but we're also tired of Zoom at the same time. So by 2030, there's going to be 41 megacities with at least 10 million people inside of them. So that includes metro areas like Tokyo, New York, Lagos in Nigeria, Mexico City, and the cost of the megacities are including stressors for the supply and demand that we have. So there are spikes seen in the pricing and housing markets, like in San Francisco, like in Texas and Dallas. Areas of gentrification happening. There are effects in our transportation, whether that's pollution or whether that's the ability of being in traffic for so long or public transportation. There's also like homelessness increasing, and there's rising inequities. So urbanization and globalization has really had that impact, but it's also impacting like our own cultural diversity and cultural identification. So because 80% of that media is really influenced on technology, whoever has the most control of technology, the most websites out, the most trends, trending topics, that is what's giving a position for enforcement of that culture to all, like the whole world's cultural patterns. And so there's conflicts in traditional views, right? There's disturbances in that normative structure that we've always had, suppression with the old versus a new value, and that's leading into increased dissatisfaction and we see that right now, like in our Black Lives Matter, right? We're tired of the status quo. There has to be a disturbance of that normalized structure. And so that's something that we're seeing right now, but it also impacts education, right, Vivian?
Yes.
So it's almost like you're saying conflict is what leads to like the shift in culture. That's interesting point. Thanks, Amaya.
Yeah, so like, I mean, you see it like in areas where women are starting to uprise after they've been stifled for a really long time, where they're becoming candidates in politics, where they're just asking for equal rights. And I think that we saw that, before in the past, where we're seeing that now again.
Yes. So, are you gonna ask me a question?
So, Vivian, how does that relate to schooling and urban?
So with the global change, with the globalization as a mega change, I think our children need to surely become a global citizens for them to become future leaders with the global mindedness and their capacity to communicate with people from different cultures. So when they grow up, I hope they can become the leaders who are building the bridges with different parts of the world and to make this world a better place for everyone to live. And as we can see, diversity and urbanization have a huge impact on our society. And as our society changes, so do our interactions. And as we move into a digital learning as a new norm right now, what can we expect the technology to have for the effect on that? Lisa, can you tell us more about it?
Yes. Well, when we think about technology, I know a lot of us think of actual computers or an electronic device. technology is really just anything new. It can be, as we've been reading in our Inventing Better Schools book for our course, it can be moving from a twill or a feather pen to a ballpoint pen. You know, it's anything that can make improvements, or moving from the chalkboard to the overhead projector. And so that's what we look at technology we're talking about here. But some trends that we're seeing worldwide are, first of all, artificial intelligence. We already are seeing that in our homes with where we have Alexa or Siri, and we tell it to do different things for us. It is thinking for us. Obviously, it's not thinking, but it is using so much data and making decisions and trends and things for us. Another thing we're going to see is more and more augmented reality and virtual reality. And we define those for you in our presentation we're going to share with you. But what we're seeing with those two is something called extended reality. It's kind of a catch-all term that covers all these emerging technologies that are trying to create this immersive digital experience. And our children are becoming accustomed to it. They're all into Fortnite and all these trends we're already seeing that are huge in the industry of entertainment. And so these are things that we need to be aware of. Another trend in technology is big data. We are going to have more and more data at our fingertips and access to it, and be able to see trends through data. And the amount that's just being created is massive. And thanks to the augmented analytics, we are now making sense of our world and our work with enormously complex information and varied streams of data. All these are going to have huge impacts on education. So Mickey, as teachers and as educators increase our capacity to use technology for a learner's experience, we have to be aware that students live in a world of hyperconnectivity, and that anytime ever before, we have this unprecedented access to the Internet of Things. And so I kept reading that a lot in my research. Tell us what that means.
Well, hyperconnectivity is just like what you said before, in terms of what we think of when we're accessing technology. When we're talking about using the internet, everyone thinks about sitting down at a computer and logging on, and that's not the case anymore. There are multiple devices in every home that uses the internet on a regular basis. So your phone is connected to your tablet, which is connected to your artificial intelligence of Alexa or Siri or Google.
Or a watch.
Yeah, your watch, your appliances are connected, your home security may be connected, game consoles, like what the kids are playing Fortnite together, they're connected to the internet and they're playing together. That's a social aspect of it. There's even your car is connected to a lot of these devices. So you have not just, when you talked about big data, people are connected by multiple devices. Those devices are connected to one another, and they are programmed in a way that is very complex, and they communicate and share information about you with one another. They learn your habits, preferences, they market based on that information. But we're seeing this hyperconnectivity is valuable to, say, parents whose kids are driving and they can track them with their cell phone. That's something that we never were able to do years ago. Kids are never lost because most of them have navigation in their pocket. And so the world is very different based on that connectivity. And to speak to Amaya's point about the urbanization and how much technology is happening in these mega cities, all of those areas, this is industrial too. So all of these devices are collecting data constantly into that big data concept. And so that's how we know that there's some kind of a problem on our, traffic devices to avoid an area, because that public transit has collected data and put that out to people. Weather is accessible, when inclement weather is coming and how to prepare. So it has changed things considerably for us. And that brings us to the Internet of Things, which is exactly that, access to all of that information in those devices.
And I want to add to that, that as all of this growth development develops into entities that we can use, now we have these devices we can use, we have this technology and this data we can use, the connection to what this means for our children emotionally and socially. And, social emotional learning is part of that trauma-informed approach to prevention. Not just waiting until there's trauma, to also get in front of it, and then also to be able to intervene when things are going on. And any parent of a teenager will tell you a huge part of their lives is trying to figure out how do we best prepare our children for that conversation on social media, and then how to handle the positives and negatives of that. In the articles that you'll be able to see when Lisa gives you a demonstration of our project that we've put together, is an article that talks about how this digital universe is impacting socially, emotionally, all children across the world. We're seeing it in that mega data. We're seeing it, and there's just a huge decrease in self-confidence, and then an increase in negative peer relations through the social media through multiple countries. And we're going to have to work together as multiple nations to be able to find the right answers for our children.
One of the things that I've been reading is that that the amount of, there's been a current study from students that are teenagers, and it showed that that students are really having a hard time. They're like getting depressed. They're worried about their parents' jobs, their economy, their financial state, plus, everything that's happening with racism right now. So they're falling into the into a depression, even though their schools are giving them like social emotional support and resources. The teenagers are just saying like it's not enough, or it's not implementing well. So how do all these megatrends really tie into education?
I think going back to like what Lexi and I were talking about, we see that there is a pressing need right now for cultural awareness and sensitivity. I mean, it's not just in education, but globally. We need to be aware and sensitive towards cultures that are different than our own. But I think part of that is having people, staff, faculty in our campuses that represent the demographic groups of our students. I mean, that's a huge part. And I know that Lexi can elaborate on that even more so. Specifically in regards to women, though, I mean, we are in an industry that is dominated by women, and yet our leadership in education tends to still be pale and male, and it's not okay, and we have these women that have accepted social norms. And I'm not saying every woman is destined to be a leader, because some aren't, but also not every man is. And men shouldn't be advanced for the sole purpose that they, coach the football team really well. And so we have some trends that are working against those social norms to better them and to create a more inclusive, more representative environment for our students, so that they understand that there is a broad picture in regards to what the future holds for them, and it's not so narrow anymore.
I completely agree with Angela, and I also think of a common quote about history: those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. And so a lot of the different things that we see as trends now have probably been trends once before. Now, instead of the hyperconnectivity with cell phones and other things, at one point in time, it probably was phone, like the Model T, and how to Lisa's point about technology and how everything that continues to improve is indeed technology. And so we've been here before, but one thing that we should do is tap into things that have happened and use historical data to help us guide how we move and how we address these challenges for the future. And in regards to education, it's the same thing. We want to make data-informed decisions for children, and so we have to use historical data to guide our decisions. And so I think that those things also can truly be able to benefit us in a truly rich and impactful way.
Yeah, and I definitely agree, because we're seeing that battle right now with just globalization and people learning more about other different cultures and really adapting those cultures to fit what their values and beliefs are. And it's creating this clash between the way things used to be versus what can be or what could be. And I think that's really having like putting pressure on, especially like millennials or Gen Zs.
Yes, Generation Z.
I've never used that term before, or Gen Zs, because they're like, we want to see something different. We're seeing these issues. They're consistently coming up throughout history, but we're going to be that big force that ends that trend.
And you make a really good point, Amaya. I think about also those who feel that it is in their wheelhouse to solve, but yet you're still here. For those who are part of the baby boomer generation and those who are part of his Gen X generation, you all are still here. And so we can use you as our example and have vicarious experiences of both what to do and what not to do. But again, it takes looking back in the past and helping that to guide our future. So I completely agree with you.
And I think that there's such a systems, like we know that systems set children up for success. When we have things that are set in play and you're making those transitions into new learning environments or new ideology or new curriculum. However, when you have these global trends that we can look at and we can see, oh, this is substantial, our response time is going to have to speed up in education. And I would think it would be interesting to just hear from Mickey's perspective as a superintendent, how you get caught in that old world of, well, this is the way we've always done it, but here's the data. There's no doubt that we're seeing this as areas, and everybody's listed, all these issues that we're seeing globally. Why are we not responding to that in more real time?
I would say it would be a lack of confidence with some of the resources of small rural schools. So the way we've always done it is definitely something we deal with on a regular basis. However, we have brought in augmented reality in some of our science courses and advanced what we can do with chemistry and various sciences, because they offer things that we would not be able to do before. So introducing some of those things is key, and then getting people past the fear of the change. But I would also note that in terms of education and these kids, they have always grown up with these things available to them, and so they've never known life without it. We are a generation that has, and we know that maybe in high school we didn't care about all of the social issues that were going on worldwide because we didn't know about them if they weren't happening where we were. And now kids are way more conscious of the various social issues, and they feel compelled to make a difference. They may not always be equipped to make a difference, but they do feel compelled to make a difference. So we have to equip them that way as well. It's not just about preparing them to take a job, it's about preparing them to be a member of that society that is changing rapidly.
So agree.
I'm so agree with what Mickey said about how to prepare our students to act more engaged in future societies. And I feel like all this megatrend for us is not only educational, professional, it's also personal, because we benefited a lot from this program, or in our professional, we understand how to become more proficient in our program by knowing this megatrend. And we also want to bring that to our students so that they can become more capable for what they want to do in the future.
So we've been talking a little bit about
just so that everyone that's going to be watching this in cohort 15 and 16, I think that we need to make sure we touch on what for them is available to them for them to learn more about megatrends. What are their next steps?
All right, how about I share what we have created. We have created a Google site for you to explore. So I'm going to share my screen now. Let me pull that up. All right, are you guys able to see where it says global trends on the screen? Okay, so we've created, as you can see here, a Google site And you can click the home button up here at the top right. And if you click home, it will bring you to this site. And then we have 3 different sections. And so one of those, as we went through today, is demographical changes in women. That you could click here and go there, or you could click here on urbanization and globalization to read more. Or lastly, as Mickey and I discussed, and Mandy, technology and digitalization. So I'm going to take you on just, so if we were to click on demographical changes in women, of course, my computer is so slow because we are on the Zoom. It took us there a little bit later. But here we have different things that you can read, different articles, and read more about it and explore. And I know that some of us have embedded videos. So each one of us have gone through and put things in here for you to go and explore at your own time. And if something really resonated with you, or your dissertation topic, or your current job situation, this will provide you an opportunity to go and get more resources, hopefully. And you're welcome to call any. So here's more to explore. As we said, we did feel that artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality are really going to have a huge impact on education in the classroom in the future. And so you can read more about the Internet of Things and security and privacy, and how it's just changing our entire world. Less and less transparent. I mean, less and less private, more and more transparency. So I think that we just wanted you to be able to see, and I'll go to the last one, urbanization. There. Okay. Did we go to this one, to urbanization? Okay. Here we go. And so we have the terms there, different articles you can read, what globalization is, national security strategy, global trends. Again, a lot more resources. Oh, I'd like to read this one. Mark Zuckerberg, Why Did I Learn Chinese? Did he have Vivian as a teacher? I'm sure he did really well if he had Vivian as a teacher. So we have prepared this for you in order for you to access and gain more information and resources. And we really hope that you are able to recognize our sense of urgency, and all of us, just the urgency that these mega trends encompass for us, and especially our field of education. And through, we believe, impactful and meaningful conversations with each other and our colleagues, that will hopefully lead to some dynamic changes for our students.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.